Welcome everyone to another episode of Camp Elasticity, the podcast. Not everyone has shown up yet, but we've got Ron Whitehead, Beat Poet Laureate. We're going to talk about the future of human creativity and storytelling specifically. What have you got to say about that, Ron? Here's Maggie Dubris. All right.
Okay, good.
So let's introduce each other first and we'll get to it. I realize this is an unconventional style for a podcast. Usually it's all segregated and people have their box and they say their thing. And I always try to have more of a conversation, just an interaction. How's it going, Maggie?
Hey, Zack.
Great to see you. Maggie's also a great author. Do you know Ron Whitehead? The two of you are both great authors. SaFranko is going to be joining us soon.
Oh, good. Hi, Ron.
Hi, Maggie.
We're talking about the future of human creativity, storytelling in specific, in light of things like AI and the idea of outsourcing creativity to, virtual science. And there's a good side and a bad side to that potentially, and just all the other ideas of distancing people from their creativity and the way readership is waning and people really don't make writers anymore much, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I feel like Ron was about to open the discussion.
Well, I think this is a loaded conversation, and I'm honored, and I thank you for inviting me to participate in it. And these are the questions of the day, as far as I'm concerned. The topics you mentioned in regards to myth and storytelling in the present, and hopefully the role that we see them taking in the future, and the dilemma that we're faced with today. It's from AI, artificial intelligence, yes, and that's perhaps the greatest threat to creativity right now. But we also have the ever-present pressure of war, and the threat of war, freedom, democracy continuing, and those questions play a part in this conversation as well. But we can focus on the importance of myth and storytelling and creativity in my life. It's everything.
Sorry, my cat caught me. Zack.
Are you being attacked by the cat?
I am, and she has to have a timeout in the back.
Yeah, I hear you, Ron. I have a couple of responses already, but I know you're not finished yet, and I'm hanging on it.
Well,
Maggie's on her way back right now. Here she is.
She's in her timeout. Oh.
Did she scratch you?
Yeah. She does that. She was a pharaoh, and she gets into these fits, especially if I'm like doing Zoom or something.
Mm. Well, an anti-tech cat.
She is.
I'll start out by saying a couple of things. First of all, I grew up on a farm in the backwoods of Kentucky. I come from a long line of farmers, coal miners, and strong women. And my dad.
Oh, here's Mark. Sorry, Ron.
That's all right.
And now we're all here, I think. We'll just introduce Mark as soon as he
Okay.
gets on.
I'm here.
Hey, Mark, what's going on?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for making it.
Good.
We're having a discussion about the future of human creativity, storytelling in particular, and Ron Whitehead's telling us about his background, the essential nature of myth and storytelling to his own life.
Okay, I'm trying to get my audio connected here.
Maybe
Interesting.
he can't hear us.
I hear you, but not through this. Can you say
Well,
something, somebody? So
I
just
can-
say,
I can hear you, Mark, and I can
Yeah.
see you.
okay. I guess I'm better without my earbuds, which doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make
that's what I've found. I mean, I
Okay.
know on occasion people request that I wear the thing.
Yeah. No, it's usually, you obviously hear better with the buds, but it's not connecting for some God knows what reason. Anyway, I'm good. So
Well,
hello,
welcome.
everybody.
And Ron, please continue.
Well, I grew up on the thin line between the pioneer past and the science fiction future, a cataclysmic age of change. And my dad worked at the coal mines for 43 years here in Kentucky, and he dropped out of school in the 10th grade. I asked him once why he did, and he said, I'd rather be working than going to school. But he loved poetry and he loved literature. He loved to read, and he memorized poems and would recite them, and was a storyteller and could tell stories and recite poems for days on end without repeating himself. And so I realized that when I was 7 years old, that I was born to be a poet. And that was at a big family gathering on Thanksgiving. And so I began to understand in those early years, but particularly once I left home when I was 17, and I moved 2,000 miles away from Kentucky to Arizona. And in the Four Corners area of the United States of America, I started experiencing changes, positive changes in my feelings, in my dreams. I started having lucid dreams, and I started revisiting my early years and remembering the positive stories of people I grew up with and the place where I grew up. And I started writing those stories down. And that's how I found my voice as a poet, as a writer, and as a person, by writing the worst and the best and everything in between. And those were the early days of my life as a writer, and making the choice that no matter what, I would determinedly live a genuine life, not a life forced. I would not allow myself to be forced into a cubicle of any kind. into a veal fattening pen, which I believe is what Douglas Copeland and Generation X referred to.
A fattening pen, yes, I've heard it. I think it is Douglas Coupland.
Yeah, Copeland. And
Last
and
fattening pen.
and so storytelling, and so I began my studies, even though I had been through Grit magazine, which I sold from farm to farm for a time, and I
Wow, I
joined
remember that.
and I joined book clubs there on the farm that I saw in Grit magazine, biography, geography. I read about people all over the world, and I started reading the myths, the legends, the fairy tales of the world, and I came to realize that storytelling goes back to the beginning of time as we know it. And it was in the early days, the skalds, the bards traveled from town to town and shared, listened to people's stories, the stories of people's lives, and they shaped those into poems and songs. And they often sang their poems. And to me, growing up in a musical storytelling family, the son of farmers and coal miners and strong women, going back to Ireland and England and Scotland and Wales and Northern Europe and Scandinavia. Um, that's my ancestry, my DNA. I realized that those were the folks who really had the power. And being raised in a Southern Baptist church, and I'm asked constantly, what's your religion? And I said, well, I don't, even though my family's still Southern Baptist, I started questioning that and going my own way early on. But I love the literature of the Bible. And in the beginning was the word, the opening passage there of John. And
It is, yeah.
and that was powerful to me. When I was a boy, I read that and I thought, that's what I want. The word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. And so storytelling is all and everything as far as I'm concerned. And the creative fire that each of us have, we all have a nonstop river of creative fire flowing through us, burning constantly. And society, civilization, with all its discontents, which Sigmund Freud and many others wrote about in his book, Civilization and Its Discontents in 1927, a great book, um, does everything it can. He said in that book, we have to, in order to have civilization, give up part of our wild nature. And so my quest has
Let's
been,
get rid of the civilization, bring back our wild nature. That's what it's all about.
that's exactly right. And so
Right.
we're moving into the direction of, particularly with the invasion of artificial intelligence into our daily lives, the loss of our basic human, wild, feral nature, like Maggie's feral cat.
Unless there's a way to use it artistically. Have you considered a possibility of using AI as an artist? Not to replicate something like draw me a horse, but somehow confuse it. You know, like Nietzsche says, an artist refuses to take reality on its own terms. What I've been doing with those text to image generators is asking it questions it can't answer, throwing in more and more complications and just trying to trick it and basically playing with it as an artist.
Well, so as a chess player, you're going to outsmart AI. Well,
That's what artists are all about. That's what
I
artists always, that's antinomial, you know?
that's right.
That's the
And,
only thing I've read from your book so far, but that's exactly what it is.
thank you.
I
And I
mean,
like
think
that.
about it.
I
I
love
can
that
tell, I
approach.
can tell it's great. I have to admit, like I'm cluttered with a whole lot of things going on in my life right now. So I didn't prepare adequately for this podcast, but I feel like it's okay. We all just kind of talk to each other, give each other room to converse, you know? But I don't mean to interrupt you. I think you're coming to a decisive point.
Well, I think this is the way. I love this type of exchange, the brainstorming sessions where we each
Right
of us
on.
openly, Mark, Maggie, Zack, and I, all of us exchange in just bam, 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 first thought, best thought,
That's
back.
totally what I want to do. Like, not have an argument, but just like bonfire
Nothing,
of ideas.
yeah, nothing prepared ahead of
Yeah.
time. Just open ourselves up and let it flow. And so now, actually, I'll pause at that point and let Mark and Maggie join in and
Right.
share their perspective on this.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Mark.
Maggie, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Maggie. Go ahead. I don't know. By the way, I don't know what the question was because I missed the beginning.
Okay, we're just,
I
it
don't know.
doesn't even have to be about AI, but it's just the idea of what is the timeless value of myth making? What is the inherent meaning and value of storytelling?
You know,
That kind of thing.
Zack, I'm having the most trouble hearing you.
Hearing me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
I better put the damn headphones on.
So if you could get a little closer or something, you're very muffled to me. So
I'll put these on.
I don't know. Can you hear me okay? Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound
I
good.
Yes.
All right. It sounds like your mic is muffled, Zack.
No, I just must
me.
have to wear these stupid headphones, but it's okay.
It's not horrible, but it's not, as good as the other two.
All right, can you hear me better now?
No, it's the same, but that's all right.
No.
I'll make do.
It might be one of your settings.
What?
One of the settings on the Zoom. It's an audio setting.
Well, it says speakers, Realtek high definition audio, microphone.
That's louder.
I don't know if it's no better, I'll take it off.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
All right. I'll leave it on. So can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the question was about?
Oh, shit. Sorry, I just lost the. There you are. Sorry. There's no question. We're just talking about the inherent value of storytelling and myth making to our lives. And I'm just asking you to throw in, okay, here's an idea. I noticed people take photographs that mythologize the neighborhoods they live in, the cities they live in. Like they'll take a picture of a church spire at sunset or something, or they'll take a picture of a river and a bridge, and it's like the old town bridge, that kind of thing. I've done it with the town I grew up with in childhood, much like Ron was talking about. I remember the stories that were told in the town I grew up in, and I've written down all of those and sort of created my voice, my writer's persona out of that beginning, that kind of beginning. And I remember in your Blossoms and Blood, that seemed a well lived in kind of a story. I'm not saying it was autobiographical, but I bet it was referencing a lot of experience.
It was, yeah. But Maggie, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
I feel like AI can be used as a tool. That was what I was thinking about with this. Not so much for writing.
Cure cancer or something, right?
Yeah, or I've been using it just the past couple weeks to generate images for like a graphic novel type of thing of a poem. And I feel like you can make it like what Zach was saying, you can make it do things that are unexpected by putting in strange prompts. So it seems like in that way it could be an expansion of our tools to connect with the world. Then, of course, the downside is it's self-referential.
Hmm.
So a lot of unoriginal things could come from it if you're not careful.
And I feel like if it does become, and maybe it already is becoming, I don't think it is, but if it does become the mainstream of graphic imagery, I think the human-made stuff is going to become a specialty and acquire value and appreciation for its rarity. So maybe like the percentages won't even change. We'll just all have to kind of adapt to a new paradigm. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. AI is baffling to me. I don't, I'm not sure I know personally enough about it to make any educated comments. I mean, the only thing I've sort of referenced lately was listening to, I mean, I'm an old guy, so my my have that Beatles was a major, and as a musician too, they were a major thing. And listening to what AI did with that last Beatles single that they just released not too
Oh, I
long
haven't
ago,
heard it.
I
I
haven't heard.
thought that was just separating a voice and piano, which was innocuous in itself. But I
Yeah,
then, and I think it probably did a good job of that, and nothing that created some other reality. But
that's good.
I did hear an AI Beatles composition, and it was really bad.
Yeah,
You could hear the falseness. You could tell it
yeah,
wasn't,
yeah, yeah.
it wasn't real. My suspicion, I'm just, again, like you, I don't know, I have no idea what's going to happen, but my suspicion is that that genuine human voice is always going to come through. No
Mhm.
matter, especially in the case of like art. I suspect that. Although with painting, I mean, you're probably going to get away with a lot in painting, let's say, into visual
Uh,
arts. That's, I mean,
that's probably true.
they might be specifically different matters. One thought that I had, Maggie, I don't know, where are you based? Where are you
I'm
based?
in I'm in New York City.
Oh, okay. I was walking the streets of Manhattan today,
Oh,
and because I live, a couple of miles outside of Manhattan, and
Denver.
yeah, I know. Well, I was going to say, knowing Colorado and knowing Arizona, we are in a different reality here.
Well,
That, like,
you're in Kentucky right now, though, aren't you?
I'm on the banks of the Ohio River.
Oh, okay.
so we're like on a different planet here. And
It's true.
when I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the I'm sorry, this you're the guy in Kentucky.
Oh,
Ron White,
Ron.
Ron Whitehead.
Ron, I'm
Ron
sorry, yes.
Whitehead, yes.
Ron,
Mark.
when you guys were talking about the loss of the feral nature, I kind of think of, well, spend a few days walking around the city, and
Well,
you'll
that's
see a
true.
lot of outbursts of the feral nature, and
That's
I'm not
true.
so sure it's something you want to see a lot of times.
Mhm.
So, but
right.
that might be a whole
But the
other discussion.
refined, creative feral nature. No, I know what you mean, though.
So, Mark, where exactly do you live? 2 miles outside of New York. Where is
No, no,
that?
I live in New Jersey, and right outside of Manhattan.
In Jersey City? I mean, I
No, no, I lived in Hoboken for a long time, which is right
did.
on. Yeah, and I'm in Montclair, New Jersey right now,
Okay.
which is exactly 12 miles west, they call it. So,
Okay.
but it's,
I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you know the valley in Los Angeles, North Jersey, around Manhattan is kind of like the same, you're this vast conglomeration of stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. I love New York City. It's my favorite big city in the world. I've spent a lot of time there. I've done a lot of shows there. I have many
mhm,
friends there. So it's great to have y'all on this program, to be on here with you all.
mm,
Yeah,
mhm,
Yeah, it's great to have you.
thank you. Well, so my feeling is that nothing, no artificial intelligence will ever, no matter how brilliant it seems to be, will ever replace the human creativity. And we are more than anything, in my experience, as all this conversation coming out of my mouth is from my experience, as your all's is.
right.
Um, we are, as much as the mind is the builder and the heart is the truth tester, we are emotional beings more than anything else. And so those are parts of us, human beings, that computer intelligence will never, ever be able to have. And and I can see AI being used for legal documents, for documents that don't require
Like
any creative
finding
thinking.
lost children, curing diseases,
Yeah,
a lot of good
all that.
uses. They
And but
shouldn't be using
artificial,
it to take
but
away my. Sorry, go ahead.
I,
but
it,
artificial intelligence is already has been used in entertainment in movies
oh
That's
yeah,
true.
for a
absolutely.
long time. So my
I,
feeling
I,
is, go
I,
ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, I totally agree with you, but my only, my only comment is that I wouldn't put it past the big publishers if they can bypass having to deal with original voices
You
to go
know,
ahead
yeah.
and just give us more,
Formulaic
give
romance
us, yes,
novels and
if they can do
thrillers
it,
and
they will do it.
They're already
They,
yeah.
working. They're already working on it. Yeah, there's
yeah.
that's central to the
And I
controversy.
think that's it's a danger because
It is.
it's hard enough as it is to get original
Yep.
voices through. That's the
Yep.
problem.
Yep.
Right.
I
That's
think
the
I think
problem.
self-publishing is the only way to go anymore. Like I always thought it was kind of a cop-out, but I don't want to spend time waiting for somebody with different values to appreciate me or like force myself to assume appreciable positions for somebody who's caring about profit and not really having eyes for art or technique or anything in the first place, you know?
Well, I think that
But
self publishing and musicians, all the arts, the new democratic movement through all the arts that's been occurring over the past over a decade now, um, has been a good thing. And I've been asked time and time again, what do you think of self publishing? And so I've done a lot of study and research on this subject and going back to the great American poet, Walt Whitman, self published Leaves of Grass.
Jonathan Swift.
The
D.H.
list,
Lawrence. The problem,
Virginia Woolf, the list, Mark Twain, the list is
Probably
long.
all Shakespeare. No.
uh,
The
uh,
problem?
the problem is that for every one of those people, there are hundreds of thousands of,
You just, yeah,
that's the
They're,
problem.
you just
but
gotta hope you're that
it's
needle in the
terrible.
haystack.
Just
And
terrible. It's
and
terrible.
it's not an easy question to, I think that's the self-publishing question is not an easy one to sort of wrestle with because you understand the desire to get around all of the increasingly strangling, uh, forbidding factors that go into trying to get things legitimate, let's quote, legitimately published. And that makes sense. You want to go around all of that.
But you
But
want it being promoted, you want distribution
well,
and
that's another, I mean,
availability.
yeah, I mean, it's a tough,
It's just like civilization. How much do you have to give away in order to gain that that
I
big
feel like
contract?
these days you have to settle for a cult following and just cultivate your cult following, and someday maybe,
if you can, yeah,
be
if you can get,
satisfied.
well, with the increasing oceans of material that's being put that's being published on a daily basis, finding the cult following is going to be a major task in itself.
That's true.
It's more
With
difficult every
open
day.
readings,
It really is.
podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
you're
more
right.
difficult every day. What I finally had to get to a place on this subject right here, a personal inner place where I determined what's the most important act I can do to give my life meaning, joy, happiness, urgency, passion. Um, I made this decision years ago, and it's the creative act itself. It's the creation of the work itself. So that when I
Nice.
made that decision, when I opened my arms and my heart, my entire being up to the creative forces of the universe, whatever that is, that energy
All
that
that.
we know is there as creative artists, that comes in waking and sleeping dreams. We make that connection. And I said, I devote my life to being one with you from now on, no matter what.
Wow.
And so one of the great dilemmas of my life was how to make it in the material world, how to make the money to get by, to pay the
You're not
bills.
the only one.
That's another issue.
That's
That's
that's an
another issue.
important issue. But
Yeah.
but when I made that decision, though, money
I
went.
bet it started to come to you. It probably
Yeah, money
reacted like a
started
mirror.
flowing to me naturally. Doors started opening naturally that I
Nice.
hadn't opened before, and the way just presented itself to me. And so creativity has for years now just been at the forefront of everything I do. Money has
Right
been
on.
at the bottom of that list, but money has always made itself available to me. Um, for me to be able to do my creative work. So there's a fine line there. Life is just filled with these tight ropes that we walk, the embracing and the letting go simultaneously.
Telling you.
Yeah. So none of it's easy, but we got to get to a place where it's easy and we're smooth with it and we flow with it. It's
It's
that's why I
getting
tell
better.
Yeah, that's why I tell people, when they ask me, do you have a religion? And that's like an important question for some people to ask. And I said, well, if I had one, it would probably be Taoism, because there's so much poetry and mystery in it, because life is a paradox. Life is a mystery. Life is not knowing, and embracing the not knowing helps me dwell moment by moment in this state of being called life. So I don't know, man. These are all good questions, and I love
Right
talking.
on. I'm glad you enjoy the unconventional format. It's good to have you.
Yeah, I love it.
Mark, what are you thinking about all this stuff?
Kind of very similar thoughts, except that money didn't always present itself to me, and I never deviated from what I from doing exactly what I wanted to do, which was not very. It did not make for. It's not made for an easy path. I
Right.
happened to
Right.
just get really, really lucky in my case that I found this European audience, in France, Germany, and Italy, and that's kept me. I've been able to hold my audiences there, whatever size they are, because I ran into that, one and out situation here with the with US publishers. I had failure with my HarperCollins novel.
With Hating Olivia?
That meant I was finished. You know, you're one and done because
Yeah.
they know your sales figures, meaning that the
Yeah.
whole U.S. publishing thing is closed to me
Yeah,
forever,
it's not fair at all.
forever. Plus,
Yeah.
plus now, you know, you're dealing with, in the US, you'll deal with other things like ageism and things
Mhm.
beyond
Yeah.
even that.
Yeah.
So you kind of, you know, and I agree with you that you sort of make your peace. I actually happen to be a Taoist of sorts myself. And you know, you sort of make your peace with, I think getting to be an old guy now too is making, I mean, you sort of realize, well, this is what I've done
Yeah, I mean,
50 some
mortality
years
literally
or
plays a
50
big
some years,
role.
and it's too late to change anything now. So you know, you either you stay up with the ship or you go down with the ship. And
Yeah.
I think you make your peace with it because,
Yeah.
you know, there's not much else you can do at this point, at least for me.
I
So
tell you,
I have a resigned and fatalistic view towards a lot of
Uh,
life now. So, you know,
well,
well,
for
going
better
back,
or worse.
going back, Mark, to your experience with um, the big time publisher,
Right.
and um, and the changes you made as a result of that. I had the senior editor for Grove Atlantic
Mhm.
fly down to Kentucky.
Right.
I travel the world, and I've been blessed that poetry's taken this country boy all over the world and to share my work. Um, but I love the city and I love the country, and I like, even though I've lived in a number of places from Arizona to Iceland. I just got back from Estonia. I still like to home base here because I can get to the airport in 10 minutes. I can get into wild nature in 10 minutes. And, but the senior editor for Grove Atlantic and his assistant flew to Louisville, and I met with them and my attorney, who's a friend and specializes in, from Long Island initially, specializes in intellectual properties. I met with him and I sent a 1,000-page manuscript from my book, The Beaver Dam Rocking Chair Marathon, back to him with him. And I spent 3 years working with him on it. And he would send me pages that were circled saying perfect. And he'd send me other X'd out pages saying too experimental. I finally realized that he wanted an Erskine Caldwell Tobacco Road stereotypical hillbilly novel. And that's not what that book was about. It was about the complex nature of Kentucky and the rebel poet, young rebel poet protagonist. And so I finally said, take that advance you had been dangling out there for me and give it to somebody else. Thanks, but no thanks. And I went my own way and I found a small press. Um, and by that time, I had edited that 1,000 pages down to 250 pages. So that was a good experience for me to go through. But I sent that 250-page manuscript to a small press and I said, I want this published just the way it is right now. No changes. Y'all provide artists for it. And they agreed to it, and it was released and won some awards. But I made the decision during that process when I moved away from Grove Atlantic to stick with my own game plan, my own voice, no come hell or high water, no matter what. One of my favorite novels, is the Norwegian novelist Knut Hamsun's Hunger, published in
yes,
1890,
the ideal novel.
which turned the European and American writing worlds upside down. That first person narrative of this young man who chooses to be a starving artist, to do whatever is necessary, whatever it takes, whatever stoicism he has
My favorite book.
engage in to become a published author. He's going to endure that hell. And And so I ended up studying all his books, and I
Right.
taught many of them in college, teach in college, but I
Yeah, no,
made the decision.
Hampson is a great, great writer. There's no question. Despite the fact that the Uber,
I know the side story. I've read the biographies on him too.
yeah, no, and despite the fact that the work sort of weakens as it goes on for the most part, um, but no,
It loosens.
I think what you're talking, I was just gonna ask Maggie what she thought of all this, but before, I just want to throw in that, uh, I sort of half blanked. You have to forgive me. There was so much stuff going on there that I kind of half blanked on something you were saying, and it'll come back to me anyway.
It'll come back. Please,
I hope it'll come back.
let's give the floor to Maggie. Maggie,
Maggie wanted to, I know
not
you wanted to talk for
you're
a
not going to
while.
get out of this, Maggie. We want to
Hey.
hear from you.
Okay. I was from the beginning, I've had work and I worked as a paramedic. And I found that was great for being a writer. Because I was published only by pretty small presses, Black Sparrow, Soft Skull, and the latest one is from a collective called Subpress. And I didn't have to worry about promoting it, making money from it, shaping it to an audience. I had a job, so I could just give them what I wanted to present, which isn't necessarily what the world or what the commercial world wants. Often the paramedic story is like, the tough, burned out paramedic who like suffers and drinks, basically. And that's not my story. That was never my story. And I didn't have to bend to that because I had an actual job. Ideally, maybe writers wouldn't have to have a job, but for me, that worked because there's no way I would have made money as a writer doing what I do. I would have just been trying to hustle, workshops and teaching gigs and readings and
Well, for myself, I worked as a journalist, as a newspaper reporter for years and years, which is a way that you write and make money at writing, as
right.
as as distasteful as that is. And it was largely very I actually hated being a journalist because I wanted to do something else. But I mean, I've always had to do one distasteful job after another. But I understand what you're saying, though. Yeah, yeah, I think I
Yeah.
get it.
I mean, I was fortunate to have a job that I actually loved. So I wasn't thinking, oh my God, I'd rather be,
Yeah, that's a different experience, actually,
yeah,
having a job that you love,
Yeah.
because a lot of us don't. I
right,
mean,
exactly.
no, that makes for a whole different. I think that's a whole different dynamic, really.
I feel like it was. I'm retired now, but
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
I never felt that resentment
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
towards it taking time from
Right.
my,
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's fortunate. That's fortunate.
it, it is.
Yeah.
And it's too bad. That's what I think it's very difficult to make money as a writer,
Very, very,
right?
very.
Yeah, though Ron, you've done it, haven't you?
Well, yes, I've done it. But I also did something similar to what you did, Maggie. I I had a dream which was twofold, which was to become one of the best poets on the planet, and simultaneously to teach college in a way that I thought it should be taught, which was um, to have an open classroom, an open forum like this conversation to study classical literature, to study cutting edge literature, but to use that as the platform from which we jumped off of and dove into our own lives and told our own stories as writers, as human beings, and to help students find their own authentic, original voice as creative humans, um, whether they became poets and writers or not. So I went back to school after having dropped out, getting bored to tears with it first time around out of high school, and working any number of jobs. I
Well, you really
so
found
so I
some.
taught at, I worked it out. So I did all my creative work and taught college at the same time, and I taught two different jobs, two different places without telling the other one that I was doing it. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays at one place, Mondays and Wednesdays on the other place. And I spent half of my money on my creative work because I was producing 3 and 4 events a week and publishing 3 and 4 titles a month. And and so half the money I earned went to the creative work, and the other half went to paying the bills uh, for, as I was raising 3 kids and with my first wife. And so I for a few 3 decades, I slept 3 hours a night and I drank 15 to 20 cups of coffee a day. So, but I was doing what I loved, you know, so that's completely different than being a workaholic. It's passion, and it was fire, and man, and I love it. And I'm just at the place now at age 73 where I have made the decision to quit producing events and devote my time to writing, to presenting readings and talks, and spending time in wild nature. And so I just got back from Estonia where I worked with a team of professionals to produce their third 24-hour nonstop music and poetry insomniacathon, July 26 through 28. I'll be working with a team of professionals to produce the last Insomniacathon, a 57-hour nonstop music and poetry happening at the Chapel of St. Philip Neri in Old Louisville. And there are performers coming from nearly every state in the United States to perform at that event. And that's the last Insomniacathon because it's the last one I'm having anything to do with producing. And after that, I hope they continue on. Young people continue to do them. But by God, my days of producing shit's over.
Yeah. All right. Well, you deserve a break. Send me an invitation to the Insomniacathon.
Okay.
Sounds like a blast.
It's going to be, yeah, it will be a blast. They
Zach,
are.
Zach, how do you reconcile making enough money and doing your own writing?
Well, I've worked a lot of phone jobs and I wrote books about them. I mean, I think because I started writing about my life as soon as I discovered Kerouac and when I was 15. And then, you know, I sort of started out trying to sound like that. And then I discovered other writers, kept on doing it. Bukowski, Fonte, all the other writers, Roald Dahl, I like his stuff too. Just kept on writing about my life. And it seems like that has an attractor effect on like giving me interesting situations. or just a writer's perspective on things, maybe. But I just ended up in jobs that were distinctly interesting and strange and humorous, you know. And I worked at a market research place for 10 years called Sundell Research, and every single other employee was a character, like perfect character. But all of a sudden, I've inherited money. I'm the sole beneficiary of a trust. My mother died a little more than a year ago, and I've got all this money now, and like monthly investments paying off. And now I can do whatever I want to, and I want to start.
Don't forget the peasants, Zach.
Huh?
Don't forget the peasants.
No, they're on their way.
I'm joking.
I want to start. I'm moving into a new place. I'm in this old place right now. I've got another month here. I'm moving into a new place. I want to start like hosting literary salons or maybe private lecturers. It's got 5 big rooms, you know, and I just want to devote myself to preserving the creative instinct in this scene here in Denver. And I don't want to be like totally against AI, but I don't want it to overrule anything. I want it to be all about creativity, you know, whether that's improv acting or music or stories or poems, you know, just creative expression. And it's not going to start until I'm out of this place, and I've got a month to finish packing, and I've already begun, you know, and everything's well on course. But
congratulations.
Short answer, I don't have to anymore, except now I have to worry about things like identity theft and, you know, the stock market crashing and things that I never took seriously before in my life. I still don't really, but might end up having to. But yeah, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. A long time, and who knows? I'm crazy, so something else might happen and I mean, no, I'm not even going to say it. Thank you. And I thank my parents. I thank my mother. Bequeathing that to me. It's a great gift, you know.
Yeah,
I'm very
that
grateful.
is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like I've lived my whole life as this weird creative misfit, and I want to, you know, culminate that with my next 30 years or so. And hasn't taken shape yet, but it's, I think, well on its way. And thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Good.
And you guys can all come and read too, and I'll like host you at different venues in Denver if you're interested.
Didn't you say something about moving to Milwaukee at one point?
I've been trying to go everywhere, man. First I was going to move to Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Well, no, first I was going to move to Albuquerque, and then I saw some videos online, and I just thought, oh, that doesn't look like a cheerful place. I don't really want to do that. And then I had a friend who lived in Madison. I was going to move there, and she invited me there. I went there, and they gave me a tour. I had like a tour of Madison. It seemed like a great place, but then we fell out of touch. So right in the crucial moment where I was like, am I going to really move to Madison? I couldn't get a hold of her. So that didn't happen. Then I thought, well, I'm going to move to St. Louis then maybe. That's cheap, right? But then I used to live there and it was a terrible experience. So I was like, well, it'll be different though, you know? I just couldn't talk myself into it. And then I was like, well, shit, where am I going to go? Maybe Arizona? I was thinking Tucson, that's a better economy. But then I thought, oh, deserts, you know, and too much heat, and I don't think I'm going to like that. And then I just ended up moving into an apartment on the other side of Colorado Boulevard, not even very far from here, but I love the view and I love the potential that it has. So I'm sort of stepping into this new kingdom and building it as I enter.
Well, congratulations and
throw your wings on the way down.
Thanks for Zack. Thanks for inviting us out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Did you want to say some more, Maggie? I feel like you're underrepresented so far.
Let's see. Well, my thought about AI is this reminds me of when music went from analog to digital. And things did close off. Like people, people are using synthetic beats now. People are using synthetic sounds,
Mhm.
but it also opened up this incredible amount of originality and creativity. And that's what I'm hoping will happen with the AI now, that it won't, because we were all worried like, oh, there won't be guitar players anymore. Well, of course there's guitar players
Yeah.
still.
And this is
And
such an oh, sorry.
no,
Oh, I'm
that's
just
it.
going to say this is such an advertising-based culture that we're sort of reacting as people to this advertising-based proclamation about AI. Like it's not even what the advertisers say it is. It's actually this weird thing that we should see what's going on with, like don't take the advertiser's word for its value or its like benefit to you, but just use it as
Right.
another tool in the paint box kind of.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I mean, could
I
be
feel
terrible.
like I feel like I mean I'm just a guy making a guess, but I feel like there's going to be a period where people like use AI as its subjects, kind of like look what AI can do, and that's going to last for maybe 10 years, and then the people are going to realize, oh, I'm better than AI. Actually, I can make it do this if I do that, and it'll just kind of evolve into a new style of artistry. But like, gosh, I guess I want to keep up with it if I can. I want to keep up with like some kind of valuable creative expression, like maybe music, maybe comedy. I don't know if writing is really the one anymore to put all my eggs in, but something, some kind of creativity.
Yeah,
And I was thinking also, what can't AI do? And it's exactly comedy, like coming up with a joke in a split second, like we've all done and lived our whole lives enjoying the ability to do. And when others do it, and I don't
yeah.
think a computer can do that as well as I can anyway.
No, I don't think so.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to encourage like a non-combative kind of like curious openness and don't take it for granted its value and don't like take it for granted it's worthless. Just kind of
Yeah.
be an intermediatist about it and see what's happening.
Probably going to do things that we haven't even begun to imagine yet. So
That too.
that's my guess, but um,
Yeah.
Be prepared for that somehow
yeah,
too.
be prepared for anything. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
No, the I was thinking about what you guys were saying about it's hard to sort through all this mass of uncurated writing that's self-published. So my last real book was put out by a collective called Subpress. And what it is it's
Was that
10,
Motherless Brooklyn?
no, I don't think so. It's a bunch of writers basically
Okay,
who tithe. They each put 10% of their income
nice, nice.
into this press,
nice.
and they publish only what they want. And
Hmm.
they did, hadn't known about it, but they did this beautiful job on my book. And it is curated, but it's also, it seems like
Oh, I'm
maybe
sorry. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
a wonderful way to go in the future. Because, people, we don't give to, I mean, I don't give to a church, and people used to do that, but what
Yeah.
is my church? It's creative life.
It's a
Nice.
great idea. I like that concept a lot, and I look forward to seeing your and reading your book, Maggie. And Mark, I look forward to reading your work.
It's
Yeah.
tough to
Yeah.
find. It's tough to find in English.
Oh,
But
cool.
it's worth looking for.
Yeah,
Cool.
well, there,
Great stuff.
some
My
things.
stuff's pretty good too. And Maggie, I have to shamefacedly apologize for just giving you like I think a Jonathan Lethem title and then saying, "Oh, was that Motherless?" I can't remember the name of the book that you wrote about all your years at the hospital.
Oh, Broke Down Palace.
Broke Down Palace, because of the
That's,
BR, I was thinking Brooklyn something, but
yeah,
Broke Down
no,
Palace.
yeah.
Was that
Broke
your
Down.
most recent publication?
It is, except for this is, does anyone know the poet Max Blagg? He's like kind of a really great poet, and he's been doing small things. So this is my chapbook that a friend
Nice.
of his did a series, and it's super simple. It's got staples in it, but it's so fun to have out. And they just printed, I think, 100 for each of us. So, you pass them out to people you like, but for real book, for book that you can get somewhere, it
But
was,
but that's sort of right in line with what I'm thinking about, talking about here, is we just have to kind of scale down our
yeah,
expectations of the glory and valor of being a writer and just enjoy our little small groups of friends and followers. But I would like to reach more readers, and maybe there's a way. I'll keep working on it. I'm not gonna
yeah,
kill myself over it, but that ought to be made a
That's a good
goal.
attitude. That's a good attitude, yeah.
yeah.
Right on. Well, I'm
Anyway,
glad I'm glad you could all make it out tonight. I don't want to keep
thanks.
it any more
Thanks for
longer
the
than
invite.
they
Yeah,
want to be
thank you.
kept.
Thank you,
And it was
Zach.
nice meeting everyone.
Good to meet
Yes.
you.
Absolutely.
Good to meet you guys. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And
Yes, see you
And
guys
and
soon.
same
maybe
back
we'll
to
meet
you
again
all.
on this.
I'll look up your work.
That's mutual. It's good to
Right
meet
on.
you,
Let's
Maggie
all
and Mark.
support each
Absolutely.
other.
Zach, yes, yes. And Zach,
Sounds good.
Sure.
Zach, we're going to hold you to inviting us out to your new place now.
All right, that's
Yeah.
great. And I mean,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be just the apartment. I have some connections with some venues. I can set up readings. And I feel like it's gonna become a more creative, friendly scene once I start putting my attention to it. Knock
Okay.
on wood.
Okay. Well, good visiting with you.
Right on,
Good talk. Yep,
likewise.
absolutely.
Everyone have a great night.
You
You
too.
too.
See ya.
What
Thank
happened
you.
to by the way, Zach, what happened to the Nuggets?
The Nuggets. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't follow that stuff.
Okay. You're
That
smart.
basketball
I
stuff.
waste a lot of time following that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
All
They're
right.
probably still playing somewhere. All right,
Absolutely.
everyone have a great night,
You
and I'll
too.
see you again soon.
See
Okay.
ya. See y'all.
Take care.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.